Okay, so this Los Angeles stuff is prompted me to do a deep dive because in the back of my head, I thought LA has to be, as was said in 2024, too big to rig. And then the moment they wouldn't call it, they immediately called it for Karen Bass, but they wouldn't call it for Pratt. And I was like, here we go. So then I decided to do a little bit of a deeper dive beyond the typical, like the cover, right? That is typically used. And I mean, so let's be plain. Karen Bass is a captured operative, 100%. And Nithya Raman is the Mamdani, the carpetbagging Mamdani of LA. Nobody wants either of them. Everybody loves Spencer Pratt. Like, I can see, like, low informed voters voting for Bass just out of habit, but there's not a chance Nithya Raman got what she got. So then I thought, okay, well, let's do a larger picture here, okay? Let's go beyond the D and the R. Let's go beyond the DSA. Let's actually figure out what is going on in Los Angeles. And as I've said to you before in a different video, Los Angeles is massive, and something that people forget, okay, is what we're going to talk through. So buckle up. This is I'm just putting some pieces of the puzzle together and framing it out. I don't have all the pieces, but maybe you do. Maybe they fell under the couch. Maybe they're still in the box. But I'm guessing that together we can figure out the full picture. Okay. The Port of Los Angeles. The Port of Los Angeles is run by the city of Los Angeles, and specifically the mayor appoints the commissioners. Harbor Department charter establishes the Harbor Department as a city department that is run by the mayor. The Port of Los Angeles is the largest, listen to this, because I'll say it once real slow. The Port of Los Angeles is the largest port in the Western Hemisphere. Not just the US, not just North America, the entire half of the planet. And it is operated not by the feds, not by the state, but by the city of Los Angeles, and specifically the mayor. So let's do a thought exercise that I did, okay? The amount of street drugs seized at that port last year have a rough street value of about $200 million, okay? Now that's already processed narcotics, cocaine, methamphetamine, but the precursor drugs, or chemicals, that are linked to fentanyl come over from China, busiest port in the US, come over from China and then are sold mostly to the Sinaloa cartel. I think we get a little mystified by that phrase. The Sinaloa cartel is, because it says cartel, it makes it sound like it's like a bunch of guys in a back room, just chumming up to each other like it's some sort of joke. It's basically a multinational corporation. It's just not incorporated, and they use fronts and not legitimate businesses, okay? So, again, rough estimate thought exercise. It's the Customs and Border Patrol intercepts roughly 3% of the possible flow of narcotics through that port, okay? And 3% has a street valuation of $200 million, which means, again, if we're just roughing this out, that's approximately $7 billion, 6.7 billion of street narcotics. And that's the stuff that's already processed, the methamphetamines and the cocaine and some other things. The fentanyl, which is still largely unprocessed when it reaches the United States, has a valuation equal that at least. Now let's go even further, because I had people saying, Becca, in my campaign last year, you need to talk about $5 fentanyl, $5 fentanyl. How can we go against $5 fentanyl? If we have that much fentanyl at $5, okay, approximate dose is 1.34 billion. And because in some cases it can take as little as, I believe it's 2 grams to kill someone, you can kill hundreds of millions of people with that amount. Now, granted, I guess I've never taken it in my life. Fentanyl is like alcohol where your body builds up a tolerance to it, but still. Now, there have already been cases that the DOJ has Sinaloa affiliated networks partnering with Chinese underground for banking and money laundering just recently, okay? It links the Port of Los Angeles with the cartel, with China, with the fentanyl trade. So, who do you think these billion-dollar organizations would rather see in control of that port? And do you think they have enough money to influence what needs to be influenced? Now, you might say, Becca, that is highly speculative. Okay, now let's talk about the Opium Wars. Around the time of the founding of the United States of America, Great Britain obviously was trading all over the world, and they traded in large part with China. If you didn't already know this, the link from the Middle East to China was called the Silk Road. That is where massive amounts of just our civilization linked on the Silk Road of trade for silk, porcelain, and tea with China from way forever. Anybody who's studied anything, and me again as a mathematician, studying just like the history of thought, a lot of things came from merchants along the Silk Road. Okay. In the late 1700s, there was a trade imbalance because China didn't want anything that Britain had. Because they're a very big country, they had their own stuff. They're kind of almost as big as the United States of America. So they had their own stuff. They didn't need Britain's stuff. But Britain, tiny little island, wanted China's stuff. So Britain bought the stuff for silver. And then they started to go, we're making China rich. So what did they do? They introduced opium. So the logic was, we'll get their citizens hooked on a drug, and then they'll use the silver to buy the drug, and we'll get our silver back. Because silver is an immutable intrinsic value versus tea, which is consumable, and drugs, which are consumable. So then the Chinese government, the Qing dynasty, was like, no, we do not want those drugs in our country. And Britain responded by invading them. Not once, but twice. Now, it destroyed China's way of life. And it all had to do with an immutable valuation in silver. Now, we're going to come full circle, because sneak back into your mind what I've been talking about the gold standard for the United States of America. Post-World War II, currency was forced to be traded in US dollars, which was gold. We were losing our gold. So Nixon took us off of the gold standard, and what was agreed upon? The petrodollar, which links to, yes, you guessed it, Iran. So what's happening in the United States of America as we're trying to get that back? Drugs coming in through China with the exact same kind of network that was used 150 years ago, 200 years ago in China. And China's not forgotten the Opium Wars. No, it's all over for them. So again, I wonder what type of politician they would want running the Port of Los Angeles. Things that make you go, wow. I'll see you out there. Go Spencer Pratt.
Shall we play a game?
Oh, I'd love to. How about global thermonuclear war?
Wouldn't you prefer a good game of chess?
Later, let's play global thermonuclear war.
Fine.
All right.